You mentioned there that the current starting 11 is strong enough for Champions League, but if you were to, I don't want to say if you were a betting man, but
you
were a betting man once upon a time. But if you were to guess who Celtic might have offers for, who are the guys that you think might be for the off this summer?
I think Hatate would be. I think Hatate now has. I think he's gone down, and not in a bad way. But I think Hatate's been in the waiting lounge for a while. I think he seldom speaks to the press, but any time he does, you know this guy wants to play, in a different league. He wants to play he's on the periphery of the Japanese national side. He wants to get in it, and if he goes down to a Premiership club in England, which is possible, because not at the top end of the Premiership.
Do you think Kyogo leaving the starting pistol then for guys?
I think it's always been the model, and I think it's always been, I think it'll, in a personal level, enhance Hatate's, kind of eagerness.
I think it's part of Celtic's selling point when they go and talk to players and try and bring them. I think it's part of the club's marketing brochure, to say, look, come here and we can facilitate it.
A fellow Japanese.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
He's been spending the last few months in his company, and this guy's angling to get away.
I think it was before that. To be fair, I think Hatate would have had a fairly long-term vision. Come and make an impact, and then I take the next step in my career.
The thing about these people is, that come to Celtic from any nation in the world, and sometimes Scottish players as well, they'll have a definitive thing when they say, do you know what? And if we've got a decent agent, they will, where they say, I'm going to chart out your career for you. And if you're coming from Yokohama, or you're coming from Hoffenheim, or you're coming from Salzburg, or whatever, if you're plans to get to the English Premier League, which will be 99.9% of players' ultimate ambition, you're not going to get there in one step. But this is a really good step, because this is a club that plays Champions League, and this is a club that wants to sell you on.
Get all that.
It's also a club that has the demands of a top-tier English club, that you've got to win every week. There's a pressure of playing in front of 60,000 people. There's an intensity of playing at Celtic that probably prepares you then for going and playing elsewhere.
Kyogo changed his agent last summer. His motivation for doing that is to get out of the club. That's what I'm saying. If you're in a dressing room with that kind of influence and that kind of things happening, do you start to look beyond and think maybe that's the route that I'm going to take?
I think it'd be long term for them anyway, and I think that just peaks it. I think that just adds a wee kind of urgency to it.
I think so.
Hatate would be the one I would think.
He's been here for 3 years? He came in January, so that's 3 years. I would think it's possibly a year longer than he might have anticipated when he first...
And I have to say, he was the most marketable player a year ago. I think the valuation on him has gone down. But I think a year ago, if I'm looking in England, who could go and play top six? Hatate, for me, has got all the attributes to do that.
You see him as a top six?
I don't see him as a top six, but I see him as I think if you were talking about a team that's trying to get in the top six, I think, or even is in it on a kind of, not fluky way, but in a Nottingham Forest. I think he can play for Nottingham Forest. I think he could play for Brighton. I think he could play for Brentford, Bournemouth, things like that. I think that Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea have got so many other options. These players, they don't want to buy somebody that they have to rub a bit.
I had a conversation with Billy. I spoke to Billy Reid when he was at Chelsea, and he said, "What's it about?" And I mentioned Hatate, and he kind of laughed. He says, "No, I'm not talking about Scottish football." And I said, "Billy, listen, this guy, you'll get him for a value now that you won't get him for in a couple of seasons' time. It hasn't panned out, I don't think, that way, but yeah, could Hatate go and play for Tottenham in the middle of the park? No doubt about it."
Well,
Tottenham's an interesting one.
Tottenham is an interesting one, especially the fact that you've got a manager that knows you. You've got a working relationship there as well. What about Alistair Johnston, you think?
I think Johnston, though, might have other fish to fry in the short term. He signed a new deal, we know that. I mean, that doesn't mean...
Going to inoculate Celtic against...
He's obviously valued there. I think he loves it in Scotland. I think he also is looked upon as... I think he's probably in the driving seat for being Kalmak's successor as captain. I know Carter Vickers gets it now and again, but I think Johnston has this sort of demeanour of a Celtic captain. But that's all caveated by the fact that Alistair Johnston didn't come from America or come from. When he's sitting up dreaming in his Canadian home, he would certainly be dreaming of playing Champions League, and he's certainly dreaming of playing 60,000 people. But I think it's reasonable to presume that, given the way the boy goes about his business, that he wants to play at the very highest level. And it's English Premier League.
And an interesting age.
And I thought he did really well against Musiala last night, because Musiala is top notch.